Have you ever looked at a product and just wondered, how did they do that? Why do some things just fly off the shelves while others seem to gather dust from day one? It's a question that keeps a lot of entrepreneurs up at night. Well, let's get into it.
The answer, and this is the good news, it isn't some kind of magic, it's not just luck or guesswork. Nope. Behind almost every single successful product you can think of, there's a clear, deliberate process.
Because without that process, without a solid plan that's based on real data, a business is pretty much blind. A great idea is like having a powerful engine, right? But if you don't have a map, you're just driving in the dark, burning through cash and hoping you eventually stumble onto the right road.
So, how do you turn on the headlights? The answer is something called marketing research. This is the tool that literally builds your roadmap. It guides you by helping you actually understand what your customers want and what's happening in your market. Think of it this way. It's a system for gathering and making sense of information to solve a specific problem. But really, it's all about one massive shift. It's about replacing "I think this will work" with "I know this will work." And you don't need a huge corporate budget for this stuff. These ideas are just as powerful for a small startup as they are for a giant company. So how do we stop driving in the dark for good? Well, we follow a really clear 6-step process. This is the roadmap we've been talking about, the one that gives you a solid structure to find real answers and ultimately make way smarter decisions.
And here it is, the whole shebang at a glance. We start by defining the problem and we go all the way through to making that final call. So let's jump in with step 1.
Okay, this first step is, without a doubt, the most important. If you get this wrong, the whole project is basically built on sand. So, imagine an airline is thinking about adding Wi-Fi. Asking, will people pay $25 for it? Is, okay, but it's too small. The real question, the strategic one, is, will this Wi-Fi create enough value and profit to be worth the massive cost? You see the difference? One is a tiny question, the other is a big picture question that actually guides your business. All right, next up, you got to build the blueprint for how you're going to get your answers. You always want to start with what's called secondary data. This is info that's already out there, it's fast, and it's cheap. It's the low-hanging fruit. Only after you've exhausted that do you move on to gathering primary data, which is brand new information you collect just for this project. And when it comes to gathering that fresh data, you've got a whole bunch of tools in your toolkit. You can literally just watch how people shop. You can get a small group together for a focus group. You can send out surveys. You can even track what people are actually clicking on online or run experiments with different prices to see what happens.
Now, with your plan all set, it's time to actually go out and get the information. And just a heads up, this part is usually the most expensive, and it's where things can go wrong. Trying to get people to respond honestly or even respond at all can be tough. You have to be super careful here because the old saying is absolutely true, garbage in, garbage out.
So you've got all this raw data. Now the real fun begins. This is the detective work. You're digging through everything, tabulating results, running statistics, and looking for those hidden patterns and aha moments. You're trying to find the story that all these numbers are trying to tell you.
And once you've found that story, you have to tell it. This step isn't about just dumping a spreadsheet full of numbers on someone's desk. No way. Your job is to translate the data into a clear, compelling story with insights that people can actually use. Your goal is simple. Solve the problem you defined way back in step 1. So for that airline, the big aha moment might be something totally counterintuitive. Sure, maybe fewer people will pay a $25 fee than a $15 one. But what if the data shows that the total money you make from that smaller, more committed group is actually way higher? Now that is a powerful insight that management can really use. And that brings us right to the finish line, making the decision. Armed with that crystal clear finding, the managers aren't just guessing anymore. They're not hoping. They can confidently say, let's launch the Wi-Fi at $25. The research lit up the path. All they had to do was walk down it.
Okay, so the research is done, and you've got a winner on your hands. Awesome. But wait, that just brings up the next massive question. How many of these things should we actually make? This is where forecasting comes into play. A sales forecast is basically your best educated guess of how much you're going to sell. And trust me, this number is a BFD. The finance department needs it to get cash, manufacturing needs it to schedule production, HR needs it to figure out hiring. Everyone in the company depends on this number. So where does this magic number come from? Well, there are pretty much 3 ways to look at it. You can look at what people say they'll do.
through surveys. You can look at what people actually do, like in a small test market. Or you can look at what people have already done by analyzing your past sales. Honestly, the best forecasts usually mix a little bit of all three.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great for a giant airline, but what about a small business? Well, I'm glad you asked, because these principles work for everyone. Let me tell you a quick story about a small online store called Crafted Creations.
So, Sarah sold handmade jewelry online, and her sales were fine, but they had totally flatlined, and she felt completely stuck. So instead of just throwing things at the wall to see what would stick, she decided to do a little bit of research.
She put together a super simple online survey and sent it to her past customers. And the answer she got back was a total game changer. People loved her style, but what they really wanted was the ability to customize pieces. Pick their own stones, add an engraving. And here's the kicker. They said they would happily pay more for it.
So, Sarah made the call. She added a Design Your Own feature to her website. And the result? Boom. Her sales shot up by over 80%. All because she stopped guessing and started listening. She followed the roadmap, and it led her right to success.
All right, so as we wrap this up, after our quick tour of the marketing roadmap, what are the big ideas you should really walk away with?
First, just remember that good research isn't some vague idea. It's a systematic, step-by-step process. Following those 6 steps is what turns guesswork into knowledge. And second, that forecasting number is the glue that holds your entire business operation together, making sure everyone is pulling in the same direction.
Look, whether you're launching a new feature for an airline or running a small online shop from your kitchen table, the rules are exactly the same. You have to take the time to build your roadmap. That is how you create something that doesn't just survive, but actually thrives. So I guess that just leaves one final question for you. Is your business just guessing,